Since 2014, Serenbe has partnered with Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles magazine for an annual designer showhouse. If you've never been to a showhouse before, the way it works is that every year a new home in the community is selected and a group of Atlanta's top interior designers are brought in to have free reign over an individual room or space. So far, every home has been absolutely breathtaking, and the best part is each one is completely different from the last. Our two guests today have been absolutely central to this exciting annual event and partnership. Elizabeth Ralls was the editor-in-chief of Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles from 2013 until the end of 2019, and now serves as the magazine's publisher. Lauren Iverson has worked as the magazine's managing editor and brand specialist before taking over her new editor-in-chief role from a few years back. In this episode, Steve and I chat with Elizabeth and Lauren about the early days of the Serenbe Showhouse, how the program has evolved over the years, and what visitors can expect from our 10th annual designer showhouse that's opening September 29th.
It's been a lot of fun for me to see the differences throughout all of the communities that we have, including Serenbe. And I feel like the Serenbe community specifically, that's not something that you're finding within the streets of Atlanta as much. And so having that so close to the city, but also feeling like you're a worlds away is really something that's interesting to have so near to us.
Lauren, Elizabeth, welcome to Serenbe Stories. How are you guys today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
We're so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Looking forward to the conversation with friends who have been partners for so many years.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
So, you guys, not only are we kicking off our 10th annual showhouse this year, this is our 9th season of the podcast, if you can believe it. So we're super excited to have you guys to talk about the showhouse and would love to just quickly hear a little bit about your backgrounds and how you came to the magazine. It is, kind of like the Bible for Atlanta and the Southeast for interiors. How'd you guys get involved with the magazine to start?
I have been with Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles for about 15 years at two different times and in various roles, starting out as the managing editor, also as a former editor-in-chief, and now I'm in a publishing and management role. I've been in the publishing industry for about 20 years, and I moved to Atlanta in 2006, and Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles was my first job in Atlanta, and I got to know Serenbe as early as 2006, which is wild. So it's interesting. It's been really fun to watch Serenbe grow and evolve just as the magazine has.
Amazing. And Lauren, you're newer to the publication, but how did you kind of get into publishing and how long have you been with the pub?
I am. So I actually moved to Atlanta in 2019, and I originally grew up in Iowa. So Iowa is the capital, of Meredith publication. So I was working on a lot of different publications there in the interior design realm before I moved to Atlanta. And when I got here shortly after I had moved, I started with Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. And similar to Elizabeth, I've also been in various different roles over the last 4 years, which I just celebrated my 4-year work anniversary.
Congratulations.
Very exciting for me. But I started as assistant editor and have been managing editor and other things before I became editor-in-chief in 2021.
I love it. Well, and Elizabeth, I remember we were doing I can't remember if you were doing some freelance work at the time, and I had just started at Serenbe, and you and I had sort of had a professional relationship. And when you got this job, I think we immediately called each other and we were like, okay, we have to do something. Yes. And that's really where the impetus of the showhouse at Serenbe came from. So it's pretty exciting to say that we've been doing it for 10 years and it's just about to open when this podcast comes out. So tell me about the magazine and how you guys sort of see, and maybe we'll start with Elizabeth, fitting into the larger design community in Atlanta. Because again, I think of it as the Bible. The work is so beautiful. So congratulations. And our listeners should be picking up a copy for sure. But tell us a little bit how it fits into the ecosystem of design in the marketplace.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your kind words. We appreciate it. And yeah, it's hard to believe that we've had this wonderful relationship for 10 plus years now. And I think, what started as an idea at a coffee shop at the Blue Eyed Daisy back in the day when I was freelancing for Serenbe as well as Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles was able to come into fruition. But Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles, we celebrated our 40th anniversary this year. We started in 1983, and it's been really interesting interesting as we've celebrated this year to really take a look back, not only how the magazine has evolved, but truly the city. I mean, Atlanta is this charming southern city that has really blossomed into this booming metropolis. And so our job as journalists is to chronicle that evolution and sort of the impact on design on our ever-changing landscape. So you see that, in Atlanta with all these Fortune 500 companies that bring in people from all across the US, all over the world, and how that, and, a lot of transplants and how that impacts residential design as well as commercial design. But I think at the core, Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles has always been about gracious and stylish living with a little bit more of a traditional design bent. And now I think we cover all aesthetics, and Lauren can touch on that as well. We certainly have one or two contemporary covers each year. As we can all attest to the Serenbe Showhouse, we have a great mix of both contemporary and transitional and traditional design. So that's always fun to see. And so, as we celebrate our 40th anniversary, I have to say that this partnership with a community like Serenbe is pretty unique. There's definitely certain streets in Atlanta, certain neighborhoods where we can say, wow, we photographed, all three houses on this cul-de-sac, or we've photographed the house next door 10 years ago. But Serenbe, with the exception of a show house that we do in Cashers, is really a community that's interesting in that we photograph a different part of the community with the show house every year in a different neighborhood. So it's been really interesting to watch Serenbe evolve over the last 10 years.
Yeah. And Lauren, what about you?
Well, as Elizabeth said, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, which has been a really fun walk down memory lane for all of us. And we've been doing a lot of different anniversary themed packages and putting a focus, on celebrating all of these Atlanta design greats, as well as designers who are up and coming more in this community. To echo her a little bit, while styles have changed throughout the years and layouts and trends and et cetera, all those things, one thing that's always remained the same is how much the Atlantans here love home. And that's in various places throughout, whether that's in the Serenbe community, that's in Buckhead, that's in Sandy Springs, that's in all of these neighborhoods. They all love home. And so, yes, we serve as a resource, but, we're really a celebration of the city and the beauty that lies within it and outside of it. So I've found that working in the design industry or adjacent to the design industry in multiple cities is that Atlanta carries an incomparable amount of pride in their work. And with the design creativity that excels with that, that's what makes our city so strong in this industry. It's been a lot of fun for me to see the differences throughout all of the communities that we have, including Serenbe. And I feel like the Serenbe community specifically, that's not something that you're finding within the streets of Atlanta as much. And so having that so close to the city, but also feeling like you're a worlds away is really something that's interesting to have so near to us.
Lauren, touching on what you said, what we've been able to do, Monica, with the show house and with you all is bring in those larger communities such as ADAC, such as America's Mart, to really build awareness around this community. And you think of 10 years ago, I remember our first show house, people were going, oh yeah, I've heard of that. And I'll never forget sitting out at opening night of our first show house going, wow, everyone did come. They were all curious and the community's here. And I felt really proud about that we really made such a big splash with that first show house, and love that we're still continuing going on 10 years.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think that the magazine really brought in an incredible group of people. I think the magazine straddles the interior designer and the consumer. You have architects and builders who are very engaged with the publication. And I think that showed up that night, especially. And I think it continues. I mean, I want to say maybe last year we had right over 300 people coming to that party. It's a lot of people. And it feels like, and this isn't a patting anybody on the back, it has been kind of a who's who in the design industry is coming. They're curious. We so appreciate you guys because it gives us a reason to create an event and these tours for people to have a reason to come visit. Because I think, to your point, a lot of people have been over the years really curious, like what's down there in the woods, and they aren't sure why they can come or what they should come for. So I think now they know every fall there's one more reason to come down. But I do think really 10 years ago putting a stake in the ground with the design community. And I think that really opened people's eyes up that there was something special down here. And it wasn't just a bunch of crazy people in the woods, attempting to build a community. And so I think it legitimized.
Yeah, I think the best part too is being able to utilize various aspects of your community. I mean, I think of what was formerly the Serenbe Playhouse. And again, with that opening year, we kind of had a bridge walkthrough that all the guests had to go through to get to the show house. Mm-hmm. And I think we had some singers from the Playhouse greeting everyone. That part is really neat too, I think, for people to be absorbed in the whole community and culture of Serenbe. In addition, because it's become this destination, or even back then, people are eating at the farmhouse after dinner. People are sticking around and staying at the inn and really getting to know the property. And so I think that's been really interesting to watch as well. And one thing that I also wanted to mention too, just because I was thinking back on our relationship with both Steve Nygren and the community, is that Steve and Marie Nygren's townhouse was on the cover of Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles, I think in 2007. And so that was when Serenbe was very much still newer to Atlantans. And then through the years, and that was a house that Smith Haynes had designed. It was a beautiful kitchen cover. We've had a cooking class that we featured with Marie Nygren. We worked with Angie Mosier, who used to man the Blue-Eyed Daisy.
Yep.
We photographed Hillary West, the hill that Stan Topol had designed.
Yep.
And so there's just really always been an interesting synergy between the magazine and the community, which again is sort of unparalleled with another community outside of Atlanta.
We really appreciate you from the early days, recognizing that we were doing something special and something that would resonate with your reader base. So that was a real stretch back then in those days when few people understood what we were really doing. So we so appreciate you having faith in the new vision.
Yeah, design has always been important to the family and to the community. And I think a big thing that I hear Steve saying a lot is that he wants design to be accessible. And so how can you provide that? And I think by opening up, by even having show houses and opening them up to the public for people to come see and be inspired by ideas, I think is super, super important. And actually that kind of lends a question to like show houses in general. You guys do multiple ones throughout the year. Why show houses? And it definitely has become a more popular engagement or experiential aspect of publications to this point. But I think show houses are phenomenal, right? But there's been a lot of people jumping into the market over the past 3 to 5 years. And I think that's sort of fascinating that Atlanta, as it's grown, is become a magnet for more publications to come in and do show houses. And I don't know if you guys have an opinion, obviously in a very positive spin, how many show houses can we take, or are we such a destination? People are so voracious for design.
I mean, I think it is definitely a Southern and specifically Atlanta phenomenon, the show house. We have a sister publication in New England, and it's like they can't even understand how we put these houses together. And I think a lot of it has to do with sort of the real estate market and Atlanta being a newer city with a lot more land than something like a Boston or New England, where that publication is based. But yes, we, for a long time, for many decades, were a media sponsor for what used to be the Alliance Theater's Christmas House and what used to be the Atlanta Symphony's Symphony Showhouse. And through the years, those were put together largely by both of those organizations' volunteers. And as a lot of those volunteers aged out, they found that they couldn't replace a lot of them because that age bracket was now working as opposed to volunteering. And so the model kind of changed. And so our former publisher, Jenna Chrisman, was able to sort of see the writing on the wall, when the symphony decided they couldn't move forward because it was too big of a operation for them to handle. Same with the Alliance. We were able to absorb those and bring them and start operating them ourselves. So this is the Christmas house that started back in probably 2006 or 7. So we feel like we've got the format down to a T. It's a well-oiled machine because we've been doing them for so long, and we have relationships with key folks in the market who are able to not only locate the great property that's in our sort of Buckhead, Sandy Springs area, but also who are interested and see the value in partnering with us to say, oh yes, Atlanta Homes, we know that you're going to be able to bring through several thousand people to get the eyeballs. We know that your vendors, many of whom are advertisers, are going to want to participate and make this house even more spectacular than it was going to be. And so it is going back to your point earlier about Atlanta Homes reaching both the design trade as well as the consumer and the community. I mean, that's really, these show houses are really just the iteration of that, right? I mean, we bring the pages of the magazine to life. We use our advertisers to do that and the trade to do that. And then ultimately it benefits the consumer who's coming to look for design ideas. And so I think, Monica, when you and I discussed the idea of a show house back in 2013, and I pitched the idea to Brad Hanner, who is our associate publisher. And I think that it came together in a matter of months, really. That we had a 2014 first annual Serenbe Showhouse, just like that. So I think that's also a testament to both of our teams and the vision that we had, and just the confidence to say, you know, sort of, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, I think we all had a lot of trust that it was just going to work out. And I think it always has. And I will give Brad a shout out because during COVID, we thought maybe we should pause. And he really encouraged us to do it. And we sort of took it down a notch and obviously did all the protocols. But it was super successful and everybody followed all the rules. And I'm glad we did it because it kept the continuity going. And so even those bumps in the road, we've really been able to sort of overcome. Lauren, are you seeing like friendly competition with those show houses for designers? Because, you know, these designers are so phenomenal and they give their all in these houses. And, you know, we should really recognize how much work it is. And obviously it's an opportunity for them to showcase their work and they will get published. So there's a huge benefit to them. But are any designers sort of like, oh gosh, I can't do all of these show houses? What are you hearing sort of in the marketplace from the designers about the show houses?
What I've been hearing in the marketplace is that these designers are excited about all the opportunities that are happening. And, you know, you're right. These designers really just know exactly what they're doing. You ask them to bring their A game and they bring their triple A game. So Atlanta specifically, I can see why it is such a hot spot for these show houses to happen. And like Elizabeth said, I mean, we've been doing these for so long that we are kind of a well-oiled machine, but we've been trying to find ways to balance what's working well and to find ways to introduce new things. They're going to keep people coming through our doors and keep designers happy and wanting to participate with us and such. But I've also found, you know, in the last couple of years that you've been seeing these show houses rise is that people are making a day out of it. They're going to all of the show houses. They're not just picking and choosing one. So really, I mean, it is almost can be mutually beneficial if you want to look at it that way. And so a little friendly competition, I suppose, never hurts anybody.
Yeah, no, I know I went to your, I guess it was the Southeastern that you guys do in the sort of springtime. And I can't remember what, there were two others happening and I hadn't really been aware. I knew they were happening, but I was like, if I had known that they, you know, I was up in Atlanta, I should have gone to one of these others. So I think you're right. Once, you know, if there's a couple going on at the same time, it only is like, you know, to your whole point, like go have lunch at the Chastain and do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. One of the questions I wanted to ask you guys is, how do you choose the designers? Because we've had so many wonderful ones. And, you know, we're thrilled when they want to return, as some are this year. But what sort of is your criteria for choosing the designers? Because a lot of times people come to us and say, hey, can I be in the show? I say, oh, I'm sorry. You know, it's a nice, it's the magazine that does all the editorial choosing. So what's your criteria for a designer?
I think when this first started, like I said, Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles single-handedly produces the Southeastern Showhouse and the Home for the Holiday Showhouse. So I think The type of designer has evolved a lot. Like, for instance, with our 2014 house at Swan Ridge, we had a lot of rising design stars. So we had Robert Brown's right-hand design associate, Lana Jackson. We had Melanie Milner and James Wheeler, Nikki Papadopoulos. We had a lot of these designers who have always been part of the fabric of the design community, but at that time, this was a big deal for them to be involved in these show houses, and it was a little bit lower stakes because the spaces were smaller than our typical Buckhead mansions that we work with. And we've always tried to also incorporate designers from the Serenbe community or even South Atlanta at large. But I think, and Lauren can testify to this, I think that's changed a lot. And there are people who only want to be in the Serenbe Showhouse because they want to reach a new audience. There are people who really appreciate how different this is, the experiences. And so, again, I know that's evolved a lot. So, Lauren, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. And Elizabeth's right. It has evolved a lot. And this year specifically, we have 14 total designers who are from all over the metro Atlanta area, but are a lot also from South Atlanta. And so when you look at the designers that are in this year's show house, we have 3 that are returning from last year's Serenbe Showhouse. We have 4 returning from past years. And then we have 7 brand new to the Serenbe Showhouse this year. Now, it's really interesting when you look at those numbers specifically, but all of these people, they are saying yes to the show house because they love and they appreciate the Serenbe experience and the community that you guys are offering. And like Elizabeth said, they want to reach that audience that's there, and that's where they want to be. And so I'm really excited to see all of the different opportunities represented within and see how these people who maybe haven't had a touch point in the Serenbe community yet, kind of what they do, because it's a different type of design that you're seeing in Serenbe than maybe you would in the Buckhead neighborhood or so. And so it's a challenge for them, and it's something that is really exciting to see what they bring to the table.
Yeah. And Steve, I don't know if you have an opinion. We always try to do different neighborhoods, right? And so this year we're doing Lupo Loop, which I think is a real opportunity to sort of activate this, what I might call a pocket neighborhood, or, it's a street basically within the motto neighborhood. I don't know, Steve, if you have an opinion about this year's show house and sort of like how cool Lupo Loop is. I think people really have to get up there in order to appreciate it.
What is really great is each year you have done a different house so that people aren't saying, let's just go to Serenbe and see another mansion. I mean, you've had tree houses in the woods and all sorts of fun things. And this year you're going to pull into this San Francisco style street and then find this, what appears to be a cottage from the street. And once you go in, you're going to realize you're in a treehouse almost, sitting up above all the other houses in this beautiful rock garden. It's going to be real fun to see the reactions. And I hope people realize that an experience to Serenbe is always a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's actually a good point that you bring up. We are doing, and this kind of ties back to Elizabeth, with the art farm, the arts group that we have, the nonprofit here, we're doing a tertulia, which is a chamber music, which don't let that scare anybody. It's basically beautiful classical music, but super cool. They do New York and San Francisco events, and then they've chosen Serenbe kind of as their third focus. And so they've been coming and doing dinners and cocktails and outdoor performances. So I think it's the maybe second weekend on a Friday night after the house closes, we're going to open it back up with this sort of like classical chamber music, kind of autumn over cocktails, and that'll be out in front of the house. It's going to be tented, and then you'll get with your ticket a tour of the house. So it's sort of an opportunity, bring your cocktail in. And as Steve's point, the home has these incredible porches off the back that you feel like you're hanging off a cliff, views of the sunset. And so that'll be a perfect opportunity for people to come and have that experience, which is a lot of fun. I just think like anytime we can incorporate the arts into the house, I think that's really beneficial. You mentioned your other houses, and a lot of times these homes have beneficiaries. And so for this year, and as well as last year, it's always benefited the art farm in some form. The past 2 years specifically, we created with them what we call a decorative arts fellowship. And last year we had a lovely young photographer, Lyle Penley. This year we have another photographer, Thomas Jackson. who is a more established photographer, is actually represented by Jackson Fine Art here, no relation. Phenomenal photography and fine art gallery here in Atlanta. And Thomas's work is going to be in the house. Hope Austin, one of our returning designers, is going to feature his work there, as well as I just learned Andrew Moore, who's another photographer who actually was an artist in residence here. One of his pieces will be in the living room or one of the spaces that Hope has. And so Thomas was an artist in residence, and we'll have him, hopefully, if he's not too tired, he'll have installed a gallery show. He'll come to the opening party with us. And then the next night, we're doing a very intimate 50-person dinner with his art. We'll, unveil that art over dinner on Friday night. And then on Saturday night will be a public gallery opening, free and open to anybody, and selling his pieces that he shot here in the woods. We're actually going to interview him. So next episode after this one will be with Thomas. We can learn all about his work. But that's been a kind of a cool opportunity to have the show house sort of, in a sense, the arts giving back to the arts. So we really love that and hope to continue that on in future years, to work with you guys to find a decorative artist. And in this case, it's been photography, but who knows what? Could be textiles, could be wallpaper, could be ceramics. That's something that you could put into your home. So we're really excited about featuring that and partnering with the Art Farm and you guys on that as well.
That's amazing, Monica. I'm so happy to hear that decorative arts partnership has come into fruition. And I was even thinking about that textile loft show house that we did. That was a penthouse that I remember initially being a tougher sell for myself and Brad. And then again, the designers that we ended up enlisting, and that was Tammy from Cloth and Kind, who's out of Athens. Then we had Susan Habel, who's an artist and textile designer, also out of Athens. Yep. And they really took that textile theme and really ran with it. And that had a super cool rooftop space where I remember we played cornhole and had some other fun games out there. So yeah, I feel like we've always been able to, regardless of the location at Serenbe, whether it's on the lake or in Grange or in a condo or a penthouse, there's so many different ways through your community to really bring that to life. And there's so many different audiences and people who are interested in these various aspects that it's just interesting to see each year. And to Steve's point, always a surprise. 2 years ago, that tree house. I mean, everyone was blown away by how private that felt and how contemporary it was, but also just really warm and welcoming, and felt like you were in the middle of nowhere because of its location.
Yeah, that was an incredible modern home up on Roush Ridge. We loved that. And that's a good point, that they've all been so different. And I think one of the ones that before we got on, we were talking about was the 2019 kind of a blue modern farmhouse that was sort of opened up motto for us. And that architecture was done by Serenbe Planning and Design, our in-house firm. We get more requests for that.
Or the plan. Okay. Plan. Yeah, I remember the paint color was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And the paint color was a big deal too. And so that's always fun. And so we do resource books, in all of the rooms and put them online. And then we've also the past, was it maybe just 3 years, and we'll do it again this year, started to do audio. So we ask each of the designers to send in 2 to 3 minutes of audio, and we do a little QR code in each room. So if people want to listen before or during or after, they can learn directly from the designer about the room, which we feel like is just one more opportunity for the designer to get their vision across rather than just a pure lookbook and a bio.
It makes it so the visitor, they don't have to guess what's happening in the room. And that's always really nice that they can just hear directly from the designer, and it's a more personalized experience.
So I don't know if I'm missing anything or if there's anything that I didn't touch on that you guys want to make a note of, but we're super excited to see you guys in a couple weeks. And when this comes out, it'll probably be that week for the opening, but we're thrilled to do it again. We're thrilled that it's our 10th anniversary, and we love the partnership. So thank you guys so much for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the best part of our jobs is sort of establishing and growing relationships like these. And it's been really interesting ride. Y'all do such a great job, and it's a wonderful collaboration. So thank you both.
The Serenbe experience has always been something that's fun for us as well, that we get to, escape the city ourselves a little bit and go and see the community and get to live like the locals do there, I suppose, quote unquote. And so it's always been really fun and a treat for us too.
We love the programs and relationships we've built with you all over the years. And this year is going to be even more fun things. So please come early and see all the kids arriving at the new school in the morning. I love it. Every morning they're coming by bicycle, scooters, walking, cars, all sorts of transportation. And just a lot more going on around Hulsa, all the LiveWorks, the health initiatives. So lots to explore since a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. Steve, I know. That's just such a testament to you. I mean, you probably can't believe it some days, how far y'all have come.
It's really rewarding to see how we've inspired a lot of people, from individual people building their own homes to developers around the country. And it shows you what can happen when you actually take down the guardrails and allow the creativity to happen, when you're not worried as much about regulations or pushing the regulations to reality. So we have more of those things to inspire, both at the show house and the new things we've done at Serenbe.
Yeah. Well, Steve, you have been such a pioneer for that section of Atlanta. So it's been really interesting just to watch south of Atlanta grow and evolve, which again was not the case when we started this partnership 10 years ago. But also just with the community. And like you said, you all have always pinpointed the right people at the right time to get that sense of culture and that audience that you're looking for that's very like-minded. And, we've enjoyed covering them through the years, through your various restaurants, through your various organizations in the arts and culinary worlds. So it's been fun to watch.
Great fun. I mean, how would you have ever guessed we'd get someone like Monica, a West Coast girl, living in the woods outside Atlanta?
Yeah. And somehow you find these brilliant marketing folks who want to live on property. I know. I never. So, yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to this year's show house. Thank you all.
We're excited. Thank you.